1993 or 94. Some friends of mine on the coast were converting Porsche Spyders, and they wanted me to be the test case, the guinea pig. It's always been a dream car of mine. This is the 1955 Porsche Spyder that James Dean popularized, and actually the car that he died in Bakersfield, not this particular car. So I said, sure, I'll be the guinea pig. It was a body that we bought, a fiberglass Porsche Spyder body, inside of which we put 144-volt battery system, 18 8-volt batteries, and a standard transaxle, a great motor in there. So, I mean, the car cost about $23,000 to $25,000 to build, which is not really that expensive for a Porsche. It only costs, if you were plugging into an electric grid, it would probably cost you 50 cents a night to charge the battery room. But for me, of course, it's free because I bought the solar panels, and all the electricity in this car is absolutely free. You can plug it in at night, and it'll recharge in anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. So this car here, for me, is a perfect commuting car. It's got a range of about maybe 40 miles to 70 miles, depending on the state of your batteries. The advantage to this car is because it's sleek, it's low to the ground, it has very little wind resistance. It'll do 90 to 100 miles per hour if you really want to go that fast. But with a little belt seat belt and no roll bar, I don't tend to go more than 65 or 70 with it. It'll do 0 to 60 in 10 seconds. The torque on electric motors is much greater than the torque on gas-fueled motors. So when you step on the gas, it goes really fast. One of the things that most people don't know about electric vehicles is they're silent. So when you pull up to a red light in town, people don't hear your car at all, and they look down to can't figure out what it's running on until they see that the license plate says 125 volt. So it's a pretty maintenance-free vehicle. Almost no maintenance on it whatsoever, other than you have to change your batteries about every 3 years. Cost me virtually nothing, like I said, because it's all solar powered. I realize that every American is not going to go put up solar panels on their house or at their business. We're kind of a unique case, but we want to be a model. We want to set an example for the rest of the population that this is what can be done.
Put some in your face, and then I'm going to cover up the solar panel. Okay. See how it works. But if you cover up the solar panel, it cuts the water up. Oh. It shows you how solar direct works. I started Real Goods almost 38 years ago in 1978 to be an alternative to mainstream energy. Our saying has always been knowledge is our most important product. Okay, here we are at the tiny house, which is a 100 square foot house. It's a beautiful little house that was built by an intern class we had 4 or 5 years ago. Inside the tiny house, of course, we have the photovoltaic solar panel desk. We have a nice loft upstairs with a bed. So what powers our tiny house here is the Real Goods 1,000-watt plug-and-play off-grid power system, which consists of an inverter and a charge controller It'll do 1,000 watts or a surge of 1,750 watts. This is power in a box. It doesn't weigh that much, it's easy to carry. And then the other part of it, the option is the batteries here, where you can run 4 6-volt batteries, which will power it even much longer. And then there's a solar option, as we have on this house, a couple of photovoltaic panels. So you charge the batteries, you run the house off of the inverter, and it's a whole plug-and-play box. Here's the little Anderson connector plug. You plug it in, and then it plays. In this box, you have the inverter, which converts 12-volt electricity into 110-volt house current, charge controller, which prevents it from getting overcharged, and it has a nice surge. So with this little kit, you can run a refrigerator, you can run all the music you could ever want, computer systems, even a small air conditioner with this one little system, which you can pick up and carry with you. The idea here is, the keyword's plug and play. You can carry it away, you plug it in, you're ready to go. What we're trying to do is demystify power systems. So this is our bicycle generator display. The harder you pedal, you can see LEDs down there. The first level is 15 watts. Second level is 35 watts. A human being on average can produce about 150 watts continuous. So 6 people pedaling is 900 watts. Call it 1,000 watts. 24 hours a day would be 24 kilowatt hours a day, which is about what the average American home takes to power. There we go, 140 watts. That's about my limit. Everyone says, how come you don't sell them to health clubs?
Yeah. Is that even a legitimate question?
Well, it is, but no one wants to invest the money. The idea with the Solar Living Center, it's a 12-acre permaculture paradise. We want people to come into this place and see exactly what the possibilities are.
The geodesic greenhouse has a few different benefits. One is maximizing space. By having the circular floor plan, you can actually spread out plants a lot more. And the other idea is that the shape of the dome actually distributes the temperature throughout the greenhouse evenly. So kind of helps to keep a nice constant climate. Here is our other geodesic greenhouse dome. It's a great design, and it's very easy to put together. What they do is they hook some wires to the frame of these panels, and then through the center they slowly raise all these panels up and then keep putting more panels underneath it, so it's kind of a top-up design. Went up very quickly. Within a couple hours it was all set together. So in here we've just installed our aquaponics system. This is just a small scale system, but aquaponics is the practice of raising fish in a small fish tank. The fish would then fertilize the water, and that water gets pumped up into this floating grow bed, where we have these rafts here that you can plant into each site. And so the roots grow directly into the water, and they're absorbing the nutrients from the fish waste. The roots are actually filtering out the water, and the water cycles back into the fish tank. These are just recycled 55-gallon drums, and then some old recycled cargo tanks that we repurpose. It's a great structure, a great space. It's also a great structure for living in. Come on in, come check it out. This is a small little living structure, one of our Colorado yurts. We have the recycled blue jean insulation, which keeps this place really comfortable. Stuffed into the ceiling and then also into the walls. We use some of the wreath shade cover. If you were to be a little more creative, you could kind of custom design cabinets and beds and shelving and really maximize the space. Another great feature is the sky dome. You can watch the stars at night or check out the moon right before you go to sleep. I'm very inspired to own a yurt someday, out in the middle of the woods or the forest somewhere.
So you'll see in here we do a lot of meal prepping together, which is what we're in the middle of now.
Wow, it's a big yurt.
Definitely, yeah. I was surprised too whenever I first got here how much space there is in here.
Does it make sense for a kitchen?
Yeah, I love the circle because it's not really broken up and we have like a lot of industrial sized things so we can cook for the amount of people that we have here. This is our bathhouse. There's some different shapes, some rounded off shapes. Shows some of the diverse sculpting you can do with cob. We have our sinks, and this is just cobbed right in there. And in here we have our outdoor shower. And so here, all the tile work, this is all from recycled plates and other tiles that we found. This shows more of the like luxurious design you can do with cob.
So cob is a type of adobe. It's real simple. It's sand, clay, and straw, and then you mix in water. There's some remains from some bricks that we are making. They've got some weight to them for sure. That's why it's a great building material, because for homes and stuff, it has a lot of thermal mass. During the day, it'll slowly start to absorb all the heat from the sun and the ambient air temperature. And then at night, it'll slowly release all that warmth. So you stay warm in the night and cool in the daytime. Definitely good to have a thermal mass. Like, these walls are like at least 3.5 feet thick. It really works, it really works. Yeah, and the interns, when they were building this, they didn't have a budget. This is all stuff that they found on site. All the cob material, it comes from right from Santa Rosa. The door and everything was recycled. So this is Ennis's bed. He just moved out. I've been sleeping upstairs. It is very makeshift, but it works. This is a bamboo. We have a ton of it here. I don't know where it came from, but we grow bamboo on the property here. Building your house, it's fun because, you've put in your blood, sweat, and tears into that house. It's like an extension of yourself, really. This was never meant to be a regular house. Some intern was here for one summer or whatever and wanted to get some experience building. This is by no means finished. You would finish something like this with nice finished plaster.
This is the bunkhouse. This is also cob. I think it has some limestone in the finish, which makes it this finer material. Can't really see the straw as much. Okay. So usually when we're cobbing on houses or something, we'll do a finish coat where we grate the straw so that it's finer, and then we add the limestone so it has a smoother appearance. So it's still the morning, but in the middle of the day when you come in here, it'll be so cool. This is the coolest place on the whole center that doesn't have AC. It's definitely a living structure. You can see here the floor. We have to do some patchwork here, so you can see it's just that material right under the finish.
But it's easy to patch.
Yeah, we can just patch it right up. The sand, the straw, the clay, water, and then some limestone probably. I think people that have houses these days, they just like when it breaks, you call someone, but here you have more of an experience with the house. You're patching it up every season, you're clearing it out, you're maintaining it. So it's definitely a more hands-on lifestyle.
Natural building, it's really alive in a sense. Like, it requires a little more maintenance, but all those materials and stuff will come really locally, and you'll know how everything fits together if you go in. So this is a straw bale house. So these are the bales. I mean, I don't know what the dimensions here are, but they're not that heavy to lift. We stacked all the bales like big Legos in an hour or two. This was our mock foundation. This board goes all the way around, and it has like cleats in it, so like kind of nails sticking straight up. You just set your bales on the foundation and literally stack them like Legos. If this was our first layer here,
Right there, okay.
You would take it, I guess this one would come up beside it, and it'd be like bricks. Then you'd line them up. We did put a little bit of a slip, so almost like a cob, like a really wet cob, in between them, like a kind of glue, just to seal any cracks and stuff. There's not much to it. This is a really good building method. Really affordable. These things are just straw. They're cheaper than hay even, next to nothing.
And good insulator.
Yeah, really good insulation and really good protection against fire, actually.
Because this is covered afterward.
That and even the raw, you would never leave the exposed straw bale probably, but even the exposed straw bale is awesome fire resistant too, because there's no oxygen in there. It's so packed. It's really earthquake proof actually too, because it's got flexibility and it moves. It is ridiculous how easy it is. This is bamboo from our bamboo forest, and then we just wove them all together. We are capable individuals. You know, we don't need people to do everything for us, like basic things like building our homes. I've built some small little structures, but I couldn't be able to build like a McMansion with like perfect flooring and paneling and trim and stuff. Like, you know, it'll look like what it is.
The store, it's the largest straw bale retail building in the world. 5,000 square feet, 600 rice straw bales, covered with pise. You can see the clear stories on top of the building to keep the summer sun out, and the windows in the front allow the winter sun to come into the building and warm it up. In that store, there are 600 tons of thermal mass. There is no air conditioning and there is no heating. This is our straw bale truth window. It shows you how the building is made. You start out with rice straw bales, and it's covered with a little bit of gunite for the building department, a little bit of tar paper, chicken wire, and then this pise, the pneumatically impacted stabilized earth, is blown on. All in all, it gives you about an R35 factor of insulation. Even on a summer day, 110 degrees, it won't get more than 74, 78 degrees in here at the most. If you look on your right and left, you'll see the hydroelectric pipe where the water goes from the top of the stream down to the hydro plant, so it drops like a couple hundred feet. See that white pipe over there? And to your right, and the water, maybe 100 gallons a minute, drops 160 feet over 1,700 horizontal feet, which gives you plenty of pressure, about 80 psi, which creates about 35 kilowatt hours of electricity, which is quite a bit more than the solar system does that time of year. More olive trees on your left. And then a little orchard here with apples and peaches and nectarines and pluots and cherry trees and figs. There's the beginnings of the vegetable garden. We wanted to live in something completely different than straw bale. They're called ICFs, insulated concrete forms. It's called rostra block, which is 85% recycled styrofoam and 15% cement. You line it up, you run rebar down the center of it, and then you pour concrete down in there. But the nice part about it is you can carve arches, and just with a draw knife or any kind of a cutter, you can make beautiful arches out of it. And it's got insulation of about R35. There's no air conditioning at all in the house or central heating. But you can see it stays pretty cool in here. Right now it's 71 degrees in the house, and it's 110 degrees outside. No air conditioning.
It feels so cool in here.
And that's the wonder of R35 insulation, all the thermal mass in the floor. Because the floor is so thick, it gathers the cool in the nighttime in the floor, and then it radiates that cool during the daytime. Even though the house faces due south, because of that R35 in the walls, it prevents the heat from getting in. It's so insulated there that it can't come in. And then the windows, of course, thermal pane windows.
Because the windows are actually fairly large.
Yeah, there's actually 70 windows in this house. We're completely off the grid, so it's a mile to the nearest PG&E electric pole. That's a wood stove from Finland. Nice part about that stove, you throw in one load of wood and close it up, and it'll radiate for 48 hours. You just do one load of wood, heat it up, and it heats the whole house. And then here you have a little pizza oven where you can put your pizza in here and cook that as well. It's made of very thick soapstone. It's called a tulikivi. This roof here, this is where the house got its name, Sunhawk. This is actually the tail of the red-tailed hawk. And it's made of recycled fur from a warehouse, and then fir and redwood from a Heinz pickle factory in Fresno. That pot rack there used to be a meat hanging rack for a butcher house that we've repurposed into a place to keep your pots and pans. This is granite that came from a cafe in Berkeley that closed down. You open this up, This is your compost. As you're chopping vegetables on the cutting board, you just sweep them on in. When you're ready to take it out to put in the compost heap, open it up, dump it, put it back. It's a great little compost. And then for recycling, over here we have a, open this up, California Redemption bottles, other recycling. You throw it down the chute, then every 2 weeks I dump those into take it to the recycling center. It's a little hotter upstairs, you can see. It's 75 up here, 105 outside, 71 downstairs, but that's pretty typical even on your hottest days of the year.
So this material, you were being off grid, you had to do some sort of.
Well, we could have had air conditioning with more solar panels, but we'd rather avoid the air conditioning, so we figure it makes all the sense in the world, passive cooling, to have the thicker the walls. We got like R30 in the ceiling so that you don't get a lot of heat beating down in the summer. That's why I like Rostra a lot. I mean, straw bale is nice, but Rostra is easier to work with, easier to cut to make these beautiful shapes, and it's probably cheaper in the long run in terms of the cost of installing it. I remember when we first designed the house in 1999 or so. I remember being so enamored of what this place was going to look like with the curves and trying to visualize sitting on the couch and seeing all of these things. It's so amazing. Yeah, this is like why people like to live in round houses and not square houses. Yeah, I mean, I feel totally relaxed and comfortable in this house and at home and at peace. Here's the master bedroom and the deck. If you look at this gazebo out here, it's made of recycled aluminum water pipe from the 1930s that we found at a lumber yard. I really love this. When the rain hits it in the winter, you get really interesting sounds coming out of the tubes, almost like a xylophone. This is exactly magnetic north as you look up that way, and then south on the other side where the sun comes in. And then we have a solar calendar. As you look through these two middle ones, that would be where the equinox sun rises. As you look through here, then the other side, that would be the equinox sun sets. And if you come over to here, this would be where the winter solstice sun rises. Looking this way, the winter solstice sun sets. And then over here, this is where the summer solstice sun sets and rises over there. So you can tell exactly where you are throughout the year. These shingles down here, which look like slate, you can see these are actually made of recycled rubber tires. 95% of the people, pretty much everybody that comes here thinks that we have a slate roof. They're really rubber tires.
They don't really fancy it up much. I mean, they just
No, you don't need to. From a distance. So over here, you can see we have a few solar panels, 20 solar panels on the roof, which gives us about 1.5 kilowatts at 75 watts each. And then you've got these solar hot water panels, solar thermal, that are actually like collectors as well as heaters at the same time, and this gives us all the hot water we need in the house. You can see the orchard out there. We've got apples, peaches, nectarines, pluots, apricots, mulberries, peaches, and lots of figs. And then all those olive trees over there, which are about 10 years old, which yield a ton of olives. And then there's our chicken coop over there, and we have about 6 hens and 2 roosters, and we get about, I don't know, 5 or 6 eggs a day out of that. It's challenging being this far away sometimes, but you can always go to town. Work is only 10 minutes away. We have 2 solar-powered freezers, so we can keep food in there, so we don't need to run to the grocery store every night. We have a huge garden, so that between April when the asparagus comes in and the artichokes come in, and then the squash and the chard and the kale and the tomatoes and the eggplant and the fruit trees, we pretty much cover everything that we need. Just about ripe. Another week or so. It's more comfortable and more serene and more peaceful than what I expected. Want a peach? It's just so isolated. I mean, kind of being off all grids. We're off the electric grid. We're off the water grid. We're off the social grid. We're off all grids. So the peacefulness to me overcomes the challenge of being so far away. This is the lavender labyrinth. It consists of about 700 lavender plants put in the shape of the Saint-Quentin Cathedral built in 1367 in France. So you can walk through, it takes you about 7 minutes, 700 plants, and it's about 700 feet to the center. The theory with the labyrinth is that as you walk to the center, you are leaving behind all of the issues and the problems and the hassles in your mind as you walk through the labyrinth. Here I'm standing in the middle of the Real Goods universe, which is the solar Oasis fountain. And what this is an example for people living in the city. For starters, in the middle here, you have a spiral. It's the Phi spiral. It's the 1.6216, which was made popular in the book, The Da Vinci Code. It's also the pattern called the golden mean in the chambered nautilus and all the leaves and all parts of nature. So the water that comes from underground, pumped by solar panels, circulates through this fountain. And we're here on the cardinal directions of north, south, east, and west. Our interns take care of moving that pole once a week. So if you look in the ground, there's 26 holes up and 26 back, meaning 52 weeks in a year. So you can tell exact time of year you are, and you can tell motion of the sun. You can tell when the days are getting longer, when the nights are getting longer. We call these the grow-through cars. Trees are growing through the cars, much unlike the drive-through trees up in Leggett, an hour or two north of here. So we think that grow-through cars are way better than drive-through trees. These cars, we brought them in here in 1995. They were old car bodies from muscle cars of the 50s. So we took these cars and we planted trees about ½ caliper up the center of them in 1995. And as you can see, they've taken over the cars. See how these things are just eating right through the metal? It's incredible. And you think they were ½ inch just less than 20 years ago. So you got, a Pontiac GTO, a Buick Electra, a Chevy Bel Air, and even an Edsel, 1958.5 Ford Edsel. The idea is the trees and the nature are swallowing up the fossil fuel monstrosities of the 50s. Metaphorically, nature bats last, but bats best.